Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Anxiety Simplified, now going beyond psychology with the mother-daughter duo. I am Joanne Williams, a 30-year mental health professional, sharing the science of psychology with tips and tools you can use in your life to handle anxiety simply. Serraphine is here, and she is a mystic, and she goes beyond the mind's understanding for in her energy sessions. Today's show is on what does energy work mean from an alternative, non medical perspective, from what Seraphine does in her sessions with clients. And actually, our next show, we're going to go through an example of a session that Seraphine will do on me, Joanne Williams. So, welcome everybody. So, Sarah, let's talk about energy work and what does this mean and define it because I think there is a lot of confusion around what does this really mean?
I agree. And it's so broad. I mean, energy, you
Yeah.
talk about it in so many different ways. And so as a energy worker, having done lots of different modalities of, energy understanding, the way I see the world and people are through the lens of energy. And so that's kind of what I'm going to describe here just a little bit. I see you as energy. I see the planet as energy. I see all objects as energy. I see all emotions on an energetic scale. And so I see energy radiating from every person. And some cultures have called it an aura, and science has called it electromagnetic field. I call it your vibration or your frequency. Really, it's all the same thing. And so your frequency is determined by many things, but a primary contributor is the accumulation of thousands of thoughts and emotions and your personal belief systems and the way that you perceive the world. So I see kind of these emotions that you have, they could be thoughts that you have going on in your mind, rolling off of you to create your personal frequency. So I see the goal of energy work is to raise that personal vibration. And so, why would you want to raise your personal vibration? What does that mean? So I believe that the spirit, consciousness, soul inside of you is the frequency of love. And so love is a higher emotion, on the emotional frequency scale. So emotional frequency scale, I just to touch on that really quickly, you can look them up on the internet. It's pretty common, but if you were to think about somebody who was angry, how do they feel to you?
All right. So, yeah, and especially if somebody is directing
Yeah,
their
especially.
anger at me, I mean, there is immediately a defense almost, or some kind of something that comes up within myself to like, oh my goodness, what's happening? Oh, am I going to get hurt? Oh my gosh, is this person, I don't know what level, or is this just a condemnation, you do something wrong, but it's like it affects me. It brings me, I would call down. And
Mhm.
I think that's what you're even talking about. With this scale, I feel little, I feel smaller. I feel like I'm being attacked, maybe even. And that's the withdrawal of that emotion telling me maybe you're not safe at this point, which again, it just feels heavy. And
Yeah.
that's why I would say anger, that density that you're talking about on the scale feels heavier.
Yeah. So I see it as a denser frequency. And so that, if you look at the emotional scale, they have them in colors a lot of times and they line up the frequency of an emotion, and anger um, is a denser frequency. So then if you think about somebody who is happy, joyful, how would you describe that emotion? Maybe you walk into a room and you see somebody who is joyful. How would you perceive that?
I think immediately the thing is I'm attracted to, I want to move towards that. Where like an angry, I'm going to move back. I'm like, a happy person, I would just naturally, you don't even think about it. I would want to be part of what's going on. Oh, what's bringing that person up? Again, upscale and in my emotions. Oh, I want some of that. So I think I would be like even wanting to be happy with that person. So they
Yes.
would, again, it would be that level that you're talking about. I would feel like a higher way of being in that room or with that person.
Yes, so they are less dense. It feels lighter. And so it's higher on the emotional density frequency scale. So that's that's what we're talking about. You can think about it and relate to these emotions, but then it's also, you can feel it. So I'm talking about this very much in an energetic way. But coming back to my prior point of your spirit consciousness soul that resides inside of you is the frequency of love. And that is why you're describing you are attracted to that feeling of joy and happiness because the soul inside of you resonates with it because that's their natural state. And so that's why you were attracted to having that frequency be more of a part of you. So really you put it in a nutshell for me. Um, that our soul inside of us is the frequency of love. And so the more love that you contain in your body, the more that is your natural frequency state, your baseline, the more you are aligned with your own spirit. And so that's the point, the big picture of why we do energy work. We are choosing to be aligned with the spirit that is inside of us, our consciousness, our soul, the true us that is radiating from within. And so we are becoming more in touch with ourselves. We're really getting to know ourself and our soul embodiment. And so that's the point of everything. And we use lots of different terms and lots of different ways, but that's the why we do it.
You know what I think of also, like our life purpose,
Mhm.
are things that we want or feel like I'm drawn to in my life. I really need to be a therapist, or I really need to do something that maybe gives more purpose and meaning to my life. Again, because that feels good. And that's that alignment I think you're talking about. But
Yeah.
I'm not sure we often think that our life purpose or a job or something like that, that's only in church, or that's only in religious, or that's only in different situations, that's where I'm meant to feel this. But you're kind of talking the everyday now, way that this we use this in our life.
Yeah. And, you know, just a side note, I'm not talking about spirit on a religious connotation. I'm talking about this on an energy frequency. Yes, they share words, but we're talking about this big global universal concept that maybe religion has tapped into, but that's only one small aspect of the big universal understanding and frequencies. So yes, a lot of people get their connection and their growth from within that institution, and that is wonderful and great, and that is where they go. But I'm talking about this outside of that context in more of a frequency sense, and maybe we share some terms, but they're really different concepts in this, in this situation. They're universal words and concepts that just most people have a familiarity in that window.
Yeah, that's a good clarity because a lot of these things I don't think people have really heard about how energy works. It's just not something it's an everyday conversation that
No.
we talk about. And it's really why we wanted to do this because what you do, I see is specialized as special and different, actually, but at the same time, it, has effects that that's why people come to you. I
Yeah.
have to assume something is going on in their life and they don't like it or they wanted something and maybe they've been to doctors or therapists and that's not what I wanted. I needed something different. Why do people come to you? do you think?
Oh, goodness. There are thousands of reasons why people come to me. But I think at the end of the day is they want to feel different. And I can help them move through that energy change that they're seeking. And there's thousands of ways that unfolds. But, you know, the work I do, energy work, soul work, is self-love work. And so it presents in lots of different ways, but in a nutshell, I work with people to embody more self-love. And because that is the energetic frequency of our higher self. And how do you become more aligned with your higher self? It is containing more self-love. And that is just a really general term for a very, lots of different things. But, it does come down to thoughts and emotions and beliefs. And those are frequencies, the way that I see them as densities or blocks within someone on an energy scale, because that's when somebody comes to me and I'm working with them. I see the frequencies they hold that they are wanting to get rid of as blocks, as densities, as these pieces that need to move through them. And then they're asking to embody higher light frequencies. So, I'm using a lot of these terms, but when you break it down, these higher frequencies are happier thoughts. These are letting go of the anger that they held, but I see them as energy and communicate them in that way because that's how I see the world. But at the end of the day, somebody comes to me to be happier.
And maybe you could give us some examples of that, like somebody, because same for me as a therapist, I think that's the general thing, but they don't ever come in saying, I
Yeah.
want to be
Yeah.
happier. They're coming in with a complaint. I don't like this. My husband does that, and maybe you could give us just a general sense
Yeah.
of what somebody might say when they do come to you.
I had somebody come to me, a while ago, and she said that every time she watches her husband leave on these trips and he hunts and he snowmobiles and he does these various outdoorsy events, she had this pit in her stomach that something bad was going to happen to him. And she didn't understand why. She didn't, she didn't feel this way about anyone else. This was just so bizarre to her that she had this worry that was so strong when he would leave. And it was like everything was perfectly fine. And then she watches him drive away and then it would just grow. And she was like, I don't know where this came from. I know he's going to be fine. So that would be something that somebody has come to me for. And it was just this strange thought she had no reference for. And it ended up being associated with a past life where these two souls had lived a previous life together and something tragic did happen and he did not come home and it imprinted on her soul. And so she carried it through this life. So when they are together in this life, her soul had a fear that emerged. And so I worked with her. On that one, she didn't have any attachments or retraining of her brain. She really had to do of these thoughts, because we create these freeways of thought patterns. And so for her, we could release the energy and imprint. And she said it's never come back. She's never felt that way again. And that it was removed from her and it was gone. So that was something, that a simple example. Um,
Ah, that's a really good one. Um, and so she just didn't understand, and she wanted to understand a little bit better
mhm.
about why do I have this? And then once well, also, I guess, the understanding is there and she let go of whatever that was, she didn't feel that way anymore. It sounds so simple.
Yeah,
Is it that simple?
it depends on the person. And it depends on when that belief came in and how far down the rabbit hole of believing it. If she sat there and really dwelled on it every time he was gone and really focused on the horrible things that were happening to him rather than that dialogue, I know he's safe. Why am I still thinking this? Because she didn't ever go down the rabbit hole of really creating that strong emotional, you know, dilemma inside of her. So she always just like, this is weird. I don't understand.
Mm.
And so she didn't create a strong freeway of thoughts in that, where somebody, if they had, may have a harder time letting it go in just one session. So it really depends on the person and the way that they perceive the world and the way that their thoughts and emotions have played into, what they want to let go of. I do want to also say other people have come to me where they have done years and years and years of therapy and they have healed and they have really gone into really great work. And they just felt like something was still there and there's just
Mm.
confusion because there's like, I've let this go. I have healed this. And on an energy scale, so emotions have energy associated with them. And sometimes they get stuck. And sometimes you have completely healed it and it has nothing to do with the actual, you know, trauma of the event. It has to do with stuck energy. And so removing stuck energy for people, which have nothing to do with anything but frequency, that is also a common thing where they have done the work, they have healed it, they have done that prior to ever seeing me. And I just release the residue that's left behind from densities. So I would say that's also a common thing that I see where it's not anything to do with healing the trauma or the emotion. It's about releasing stuck energy.
You know what I see, and I wonder if you see this as well, because, as Sarah and I talk, um, as a therapist, it is interesting how a lot of what we do is similar, but
Mm.
it's a different language that we're using, and some of it is different than especially most therapists. But you know what I wonder, and I see it as sometimes is levels that we kind of release something that was stuck for energy or emotion that was there with a belief, but then like another level will kind of come up underneath it that is kind of sometimes just a different version, I would call it, of what the original thing was. So it is kind of clearing out even different levels, is what I would
Oh
call
yeah, you're opening a can of worms on that one because
it. I am.
energetically, I see our healing as very much a peeling of an onion thing.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
our consciousness, the dimensions that we are in, the densities that we're in this 3D world, we're healing this timeline, this piece of time right here. It's like a ladder rung. Once you climb up that ladder and you go into that next one, sometimes you have to heal even deeper down into the onion. And so sometimes people are healing the same thing on a deeper level than they ever could access before because they climbed up
Yeah.
that ladder rung into a new frequency and new availability of healing. So that's how I see this as well. But I mean, that's getting into big picture and, that densities and dimensions and, but that is part of our energy world that we live in.
Yeah.
We cross
Yeah.
into new vibrational frequencies here within, our reality.
And because I hear a lot sometimes in therapy, oh, I already dealt with that, you know, and without really realizing, yeah, that there is different levels and the frequencies will be different. And there's still something else, like you're saying, there's still a, what did you call it, energy residue still
Yes.
there or something that still needs a little bit more work. And I feel like too, as we age, sometimes we have different experiences in our life. You can kind of see that residue a little bit easier than maybe when you initially did the work and you think you're done. Or I sometimes call it plateaus. You kind of
Mm.
work, 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 and then you're kind of, oh, everything's pretty settled and it's all good. and then whoop, up we go
Yeah.
again, you know?
And that's that analogy of that climbing the ladder.
Yeah,
They
right.
ascended to that next, ladder rung. They were at plateau and then they moved to the next segment, and that's when that next layer of healing comes in. So yeah, that's I mean, we're just using different terms, but we're
Yeah,
talking about kind of the same world here. And
yeah,
I want to also talk about frequency, a thought and emotions, where I don't want to villainize anger or
right.
jealousy
Good.
or anything like that, because truly on an energetic level we have no judgment. They just are, and they are really
Yeah,
important teachers to bring us to the realization of what we still contain
yeah.
within us, what energies are causing that emotion to come out. And so that's how we also see energy and frequency, where I'm not saying live in anger. I'm saying notice the anger that erupts and move through that to recognize what you hold. Because if that is contained and not released, then that's when it gets
Yeah.
trapped and gets stuck energy.
Yes,
And so
yes.
there are teachers to kind of move through and show us, but there's no judgment. It's yes, we want to move through them so that we can hold higher frequencies on a, you know, more time within those levels, but we can also
Mhm.
attain a higher level of love, a higher frequency. We can just
Yeah,
get
but
closer to
there,
that.
there's a different judgment, though. I'm gonna even call it anger's bad. Happy is good.
But it's not, it's frequency, and frequency is neutral. And so I think
Yeah.
that's how I see
Yep.
energy and this healing process of healing our frequencies. Is these are all really important, but there is no judgment. They are a
Yeah.
frequency, and using them as tools and teachers is an important part of that. So I feel
Ah,
like I
couldn't
want to
agree
make
more.
that really important too, because the way that energy and spirit sees us is that this life is choice and experience, and there is zero judgment with that. We choose our
Yeah.
experiences. So
And I'll even say the other judgment I know you don't have, nor do I as a therapist. And because I to hear that sometimes when clients will come in, they're afraid what I'm going to think of them.
oh yeah.
And so as a therapist, I never judge. This is not my life. This is your responsibility. And I bet you do the same.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I do make a point to point that out to people, that everything that they experience is an important piece to bringing them to see me, to be
Yeah.
working through this. That yeah, there's never any judgment with anything, and
Yeah.
that is an important thing, because these are frequencies and these are teachers, and they're not
That's it.
villainized in any way.
So, what are you doing? What would you like to invite people to?
So I do various ways of teaching people about frequency, about soul work, about embodying their connection with their soul. I have a monthly meditation group that I do. It's called Soul Work with Sarah, and it's really about how do you become more in touch with your soul. And if the whole point of this energy work, I do energy work sessions on people, which we're going to go into next.
Individual sessions.
Individual
Yeah.
sessions. And that's usually via Teams, or I'm sorry, Zoom. They don't have to be in person, which I think a lot of people get confused. Energy work, it there is no time and space. We can do this over Zoom very, very easily. So, and then I have a number of other classes coming out, and a book later this year as well. So those are a couple of things for me, but my website is serraphine.com, and that is serraphine.com. And it has my availability and teachings on there.
Calendar to connect with you. So you make it easy,
Yeah.
for sure. That's perfect. And so our next show, Sarah is actually going to walk us through an experience, what she does as an to heal with energy session on my fear of germs. So I'm a germaphobe. And it is one of the, I don't know where it came from. So I really want to see what happens. I've really never worked on this. And so Sarah, we're going to just kind of walk through how Sarah might work with somebody who comes in with that issue.
Mhm.
Okay, so we want to really invite everybody to come to our next show. You know, that we have this on multiple platforms. Not only is Anxiety Simplified podcast, you can find it on all major platforms, but we also are on iHeartRadio on Power Me Up Station. And we always put it in our show notes, or if you on iHeart, you can look for Power Me Up Station. You can hear it on your phone, your computer, or in your car. So you can find us. We also have a second show, which is Anxiety Simplified Going Beyond Psychology. And that's on every Monday at 4:30 Pacific. And then our Anxiety Simplified show is on at 5 every day, Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. So you can really find us, and we love to hear from you and really would like you to know you can always go to Serraphine.com to hear more about what she does for these alternative ways of healing. And you can find more about Joanne Williams at anxietysimplified.net or .com to see more about what I do or Joanne Williams does for tips and tools to conquer anxiety or life issues. Or if you choose maybe to use a dog, you can get a certified psychiatric service dog too to help with calming anxiety to fly or go in different situations. And so we just really want to encourage you that we're here for you and want to do more to help in any way we can. But this is never a replacement for therapy or any medical attention if you ever do need it. So we really want to say, live your purpose. So bye for now.
Bye.